up, just,
And what if I don't agree?
and it'll cancel the recording and nobody will be able to watch it on YouTube.
I don't think I'd want that to happen.
Not
I'll
on
be
my
good.
account, that's for
I'll be
sure.
good at least for the next 5 minutes.
But
Okay.
yeah, Facebook was having issues streaming to groups. We were
Ah.
having an okay time to pages, but for some odd reason, they were just really doing this thing to the private group. And so that's why we realized there was only 1 to 3 people on Facebook streaming as it was. So we had upped our Zoom to 100 people. That way we can fit everybody on Zoom and the quality's better for everybody, ideally. So if we need to then up to 200 people, we might have to do that if, all of our members joined us at some point in time, because we do have over 100 members. But so unless we have a whole bunch of more complaints, we might be able to Zoom live stream to our private YouTube channel instead of Facebook and have better results. So that's our other option that we're still thinking about too.
Okay.
So, other than
Well,
that,
good.
we are 6 o'clock. Do we want joke first or announcement first?
Let's do the announcements, because once they get Maxine's jokes, we lose everybody's attention. Now they're in a joking mood.
Super. So
Let's,
can you stop spotlights? Or wait.
you don't have to. I
Why
do have
not?
clothes
We
on,
like
however.
you.
Okay,
It's good you have clothes on, Nancy.
I have clothes on. Sure. Oh, there I am.
There you are.
Here I've got my list of things from the last board meeting we talked about. Let's see. I'm hoping everyone got the email that Barb Benjamin sent out, outlining some of the people that, or some of the committees that we would like to start forming to get more member involvement. We first things first, we handed out our first Toho mini kit to an attendee from the bead retreat. And that was, I'm hoping she got notice from it. That was Beth Wegener.
And she's
Beth, are you
on.
around?
Yeah, she is, but no picture.
No picture.
Here I am. Yes, thank you.
Yay! Can't wait to see what you do with it.
Okay.
So one of the things that we have 10 Toho kits to randomly hand out to members for this, that, and the other thing. Let's see, we're going to people who volunteer for a committee will get their name in a drawing. We're going to be giving out 2 kits to volunteers. And we're also going to be giving out a kit to the people who man the UMBS table at the Twin City Bead Bazaar.
Speaking
And
of
then-
which, I still need people for the 12:30 to 2:30 shift on Sunday. If anyone would please volunteer, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
I was going to get to you,
Okay.
but we'll get there. And then we are going to award a kit to any new member who joined since the first of the year up until almost the end of April. We are going to put those names into a drawing, and we are going to award a kit to those people, one of those people. And we'll handle mailing it out to you if we have to do that. And then the remaining 5 kits we're going to hand out to, or we're going to have a drawing to award kits to 5 of our members. I think that were members before the first of the year. Let's see, Becky, you said you need one more volunteer?
I'd really like 2 if I can get them. Lori's all alone on that shift.
Okay,
So 12:30 to 2 on Sunday is what I really need. And I also want to remind people about your Beads Connect Us piece for the state fair. We got confirmation that we do get the display case. With the guy that's in charge passed away, so a lot of things were changing, but we got confirmation that we do get the case, so we'd like to see lots of representation there. Thank you.
we also talked about at the state fair, you know, where we do our demonstration, they have 2 low little display cases on that corner. And that maybe if we get enough, we would put projects that are made from tonight's topic in that case to
Yeah.
showcase that. If that's all right
Literally
with
to
Chris.
showcase that, literally.
Literally to showcase that. If we can get some of those beaded rocks from anybody. There was
Yeah.
also mentioned that at the Twin City Bead Bazaar, if you go there, there will be some rocks for people who don't live by rocks, I guess. Let's see. Another thing that the board has talked about is people interested in supporting the cause for relief in the Ukraine. We talked about the possibility, well, several things of making things and selling them and whatnot. And we decided that really what we would like to do was to encourage people on social media of whatever kind they have to make announcements or whatever concerning maybe donating to like UNICEF or the Red Cross or some organization are going to all the effort of making a sale and whatnot, and having a few $100s at most. Well, it was just a drop in the bucket. And so if we wanted to donate or assist in any way, we would like to be able to see that we're doing something good for that situation.
Nancy?
Yes.
Can I say something real brief here?
Absolutely.
Jen Carlson and I were talking on the phone yesterday, and we're going to be putting up a new page on the website for Ukraine relief. And we're not sure exactly what info is going to go on there, but there will be a special page and presumably we'll have more information. So bear with us as we get something going, but we will have an official new page on the website to refer people, you know, whatever. So that's it. That's my little announcement.
Wonderful.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Nobody knows me, but what about a raffle? Some of the bead stuff, if we do extra bead stuff at the whatever May conference thingy.
Okay, are you talking about
Raising money for Ukraine? And we're doing, how about doing a raffle?
It's way
guess-
too much work and we don't collect enough. And if you want to donate, that's the decision we came up with, is that it takes so much effort to come up with pennies. So if you want to donate.
Yeah,
Well,
you know,
In my
Oh,
old
Nancy.
society, the biggest thing that made money is this huge bead jar. When we had a weekend celebration, everybody put something in, and it can be quite a lot of beads in there. And then you have it, people have stuff they don't want or whatever. Tickets will sell. It's not hard to do to get a big jar and fill it.
Well, I will bring that up to the board and we'll see what everybody thinks about that.
The only problem I see with that is that we don't meet in person to actually do that.
Right.
It's not a bad idea. It's just that we don't meet in person and
But
probably
she was
won't
thinking for
until the
Bead
end of the
Bazaar,
year.
For the Bead Bazaar, so that way you would see the jar full of stuff at the Bead Bazaar and enter or buy your raffle ticket. You mean at the Bead Bazaar and be part of the bazaar?
But
That's
if we
what
do
I'm
it-
thinking of, yeah.
If we do it at the bazaar, people would have to know ahead of time that they have to bring stuff for the jar.
Right,
people
yeah,
get
have to
on
print
to
up
up
tickets,
until
we're not prepared to, the Bead Bazaar is coming up pretty quickly. And we're just not prepared to do that. We haven't given it any thought. And, it's kind of late in the day.
All right.
We don't do that much in person anymore. So.
No, I get it, but I was thinking the Bead Bazaar. I just know that it was the biggest income for my old bead society. So that's all.
Mm.
Mhm.
When you have I actually won it once, and there was so much in it in the jar. It was amazing, and that's people just donate what they don't want, and people could send stuff to Rochelle or drop it by the shop or something like that.
Well, my idea then would be you need to join the board.
Exactly. There you go, Robin.
She's smiling, I can
Laughing,
tell.
Missy.
Or
Yeah.
volunteers for one of the committees, please.
Yeah, if you can volunteer for committee, we would love all the extra help.
Well, I'll turn off my volume now.
Oh,
And sneak away.
I'm
you're so
just
funny, Robin.
not here. Just ignore me.
No,
that's
we
a-
won't.
that's
No,
a
I
really
meant
good
that
idea.
seriously. I meant that seriously. Your energy needs to get on the board.
Exactly.
But at short term, she could maybe bring beads to the bead bazaar.
There you go.
Mhm.
Yeah, and donate them there at our table.
I live in Colorado.
Oh,
You
well,
can
that's
send
not
them to
good
me.
then.
You can send them to me.
That's why I said
Yeah,
drop it off
I
at the store and mail it to the store.
You're not going to be coming to our Twin City Bead Bazaar?
No.
I guess not.
So
My personal experience with that is like spending $10 to bake a cake for your kids' bake sale, and then they sell the cake for $2.
Yeah.
I would have been better off giving the $10 that I used to make that to the organization as a flat out donation. Although I know everybody enjoys a good cake.
I completely agree. Girl Scout cookies have gotten atrociously expensive. It's not even worth buying a box because they're smaller, and it's just, I'd rather the kids have the money.
Yeah.
And until you have experienced the whole whatever, till you see the jar like the size of a water bottle full, and tickets are $5, you'd be surprised it adds up. That's all I'm saying. But okay, I'll talk to Rochelle on the side.
There you go.
Since
But
she's
thank you for
so
contributing your idea. We really appreciate that. Okay, I guess we need a joke.
Okay, well, this is,
Let me highlight her first, okay? Let me remove spotlight.
that's all right. It's only
There we
my
go.
voice you want to hear.
Add spotlight.
Okay. So this is by Portia Nelson. It is an autobiography in 5 short chapters. Chapter 1, I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes me forever to find a way out. Chapter 2, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I still don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. It isn't my fault. It takes me a long time to get out. Chapter 3, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's a habit. It's not my fault. I know where I am. I get out immediately. Chapter 4, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5, I walk down a different street. So that's all I have for today.
I have,
Thank you.
I have one.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Okay, Rochelle, you want to take this meeting over?
I can do my best here. I emailed Margot and Sonia apparently wanted it too, and I emailed it, I messaged it. There we go. There they are. Okay, perfect. That's who I've been waiting for, is these lovely ladies to join us. So now we're all here. We totally appreciate you coming. And Chris Allen's our amazing speaker for tonight. She will also be one of our teachers for Let's Bead Live Saturday, which is April 16th. I know that's Easter weekend and tax weekend and everything else. We usually try to do our Let's Bead Live on our holiday weekends because we usually have more attendance. You want something else to do instead of what or bring your family, bring your taxes with. I don't know. I still have to do mine this week. So, but we have 3 fabulous people. We have a new person teaching us on Saturday, the 16th, who is Sue Adam Neal. She lives in Arizona now, and she's an amazing designer. She does really creative things with check beads and seed beads, and she's been one of our Team Toho designers for a while. And so her unique check please design uses those really cool, like 12 millimeter cushion beads, I think they're called. So she's using gem duos to capture the cushion bead. So you could probably do it around a Rivoli or a cabochon, any kind of cool thing. And that way you get texture and dimension. And so she does have kits on her site for a variety of different colorways for that. We don't sell the cushion beads at Bobby Bead at the moment. There's just not enough room on the wall. So I can get some if anybody wants a special order some. I just think they'd be here right before the class though. Then the second is, of course, we're beading around our rocks. Chris Allen will be teaching us how to bead around rocks and join the whole world of art in nature combination. And I will donate rocks and beads to anybody who wants to join this whole Beaded Rock project. And so if you want it before the class, you'll have to see me at Bobby Bead. Otherwise, if you just want to join the project, I will bring rocks and beads to the Twin City Bead Bazaar that people could pick up for this big, wonderful project. And then the thirdly that day is Lisa Julie's third installment for her beaded bead class. It's called a divergent bead. And it's a really cool, different way to use crescents and ginkgos in a way I've never seen before. And I know the crescents are hard to work with. And so this is a really unique marriage of the two. So the supply lists are on the UMBS website, and you can download the patterns, or you can get the links to get your kits. Lisa also has kits for hers too. So all of that would be there. And then you'll hear more about Chris's thing tonight through her whole thing. And so Chris is out of Rochester, Minnesota. So any of you Rochester folks, you might know her. Otherwise you should, because she lives in your town. And so we're just so excited to have her. And she's going to be telling us so much about her integration with beads and nature and how she's worked it into a wonderful project and reaching all kinds of people. So I'm going to remove myself and take it away, Chris.
Wow. Well, first of all, I think I found my tribe. I'm new to the Beat Society, but you guys are a stitch and a half. So I just wanted to say thank you for letting me kind of listen in the early part of the conversation while people were joining. And I'm very excited to be here too, because besides recently just Margot Yee, I feel like I don't know that many beaters. I need to get out and about more. So this is going to be my first time doing the Toho Challenge too. So I'm super excited about that. Margot got me thinking about it, and we made a big trip up to see Rochelle and got a bunch of colors, and I haven't started yet, but I'm excited about participating in that. So I thought what I would do is share my screen. I made a little presentation of kind of the work I've been doing for the last 30 years, essentially. And I'm excited and kind of overwhelmed with the idea of other people also making beaded rocks for maybe a big community project. So that just thrills me. It's like beyond my imagination that could actually happen. So I'm excited to meet all of you for that reason too. So what I'm going to do is try to screen share, see if I can get this right. Hopefully I did. Let's see. Can you guys see that? How do I make that big?
Nope.
No? Can you come help, Olivia?
Yeah.
Not seeing it yet? Okay.
Yeah, it worked earlier.
Yeah.
So
Could you go back to the Zoom down here?
okay. Here.
Yeah. Try that.
Okay.
And then
Oh, share.
that. Yeah. There you go.
Okay. Hit that and then share.
Yes.
Okay. How's
See if
that?
that's working.
Yay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, yay.
And then yeah. you
All
should-
right.
Nice.
Let's make that big. Oh, yay. Okay. So So don't see any beads. You're adorable, whoever said that. I'm sharing a little bit about how I work. I do work in a studio like all of you guys too, but I also work outside, and I'm part of a community garden that my mother started in 1986. She founded a food shelf called Channel One because she was super concerned about food security and food sovereignty. So this garden, when I moved back to Rochester, I joined back into this community garden, and it used to only be about 4 plots, and now there's 155
Wow.
as of this year. So the notion is that the community garden has basically been turned over to new migrants, people of color, people that have a hard time securing any kind of land for themselves to grow food, and also food that is of comfort to them, food that comes from their home countries. So there's farmers from Mexico and Liberia and Guatemala, all over actually.
And I'm now, even though I've been part of this garden since 1986, I'm the minority, which feels super cool. I'm maybe my family is, there's just a handful of us that are just white people. Everybody else is from another place. So it's super, super fun and super interesting because they're growing things that I've never seen. Big, long, huge squashes that come from Cambodia and things like that. So it's a food feast as well. So I got a grant last summer to create an opportunity to bead at the garden. And the idea was to make small beaded stones because it's something very accessible. We're digging them out anyway out of the soil, but it's a chance to come together in sort of the picnic area to chat, to learn more about each other. And so, oopsie, now Libby, how do I make it go? Oh, there it went. I just had to press the button. So this, I'm getting help from my daughter. This is the village sign that talks a little bit about where it is. It's basically in the northwest corner. And this gives you an idea. I wonder, do you guys see your pictures of yourself or do you see the whole screen?
We see the whole screen and your thing, and then we see a beautiful picture of your face.
Oh gosh, oh Lordy. Okay, well, this just gives you an idea of the pathway to the garden. I couldn't get an overview shot of 155 gardens, but this was the advertisement for the program. This is where we worked. It's just a couple of picnic tables.
Beautiful.
Right in the middle of the garden. It's a place that's central for everybody to gather. There's also water sources we were able to plug into, create a water line that went through the whole length of the garden. So people will often meet there just briefly. So here we had an opportunity to meet for like hours. I worked every single day in September for 3 or 4 hours, and people just knew that I would be there, and we beaded, and it was so fun. That's what the grant afforded. So I just bought a bunch of beads from Bobby, brought them down. People could use whatever they want. They could take it home if they want, but they also could get technical or startup help. These are my 2 daughters that we're helping each other remember how to do peyote stitch. This is my neighbor. He's from Liberia. His name is Jerry. He'd never beaded before, but he runs his own nonprofit, opening schools for girls in Liberia. So he was thinking if he learned how to bead, it might be something that he could eventually bring back to Liberia. This is the farm manager and her children who were learning to bead as well. So nobody knew how to bead at all. Nobody had any idea. And we basically just focused on peyote stitch because it seems like that's the easiest. So what was so great about it is I met so many people where you were able to sit down and ask questions and find out about their families and meet their kids, meet their grandkids. And they just all gave it a try, which was incredible. Lots of people were very excited for the first time, brought their whole families. Artists that I didn't really know that lived in Rochester came out. So they learned about the garden, and the garden growers learned about the artists. So this just gives you an idea of the people that showed up and what they were learning. Sometimes language was a huge barrier. They didn't speak English at all. But if you showed them what to do with their hands, they would get it and would be super excited. So just a whole range of ages. Kathleen Richard, she lives in the Twin Cities. She came down for which I couldn't believe. So I was like, this is pretty cool. Maybe this could be something else that we do this summer. Have open sessions, people from wherever beyond Rochester could come. Some of the completed beads, as they started getting finished, we started making group shots of them. just would have a pile of rocks. So important that people could pick their own rock. I believe there's a certain feeling I bet you guys feel this way too. When you hold a certain stone in your hand, it feels incredibly wonderful or not. And so there's certain stones speak to you. People being goofy. Some of the work in progress. I think the woman on the left was 99 years old, and she came. She had to come with a cane, and they needed help getting there, but she did it, and it was pretty awesome. She finished a rock. So people got to meet each other and talk and learn about this process of peyote stitch beadwork. For me, I started beading around stones about 30 years ago because I was in grad school and I was thinking about the conceptual aspects of what a beaded stone does for a person. For me, stones come from the core of the earth in the same way that your soul comes from the core of your body. And beadwork, in a sense, is a metaphor for your skin or your story. It's fragile, it can get damaged, but it also speaks of so much beauty. And so that combination to me has driven a 30-year career. My daughter goofing around with Jerry. And then Jerry, who never beaded, finished a rock in the shape of the flag of Liberia. He got so excited about this process that he made a huge stone. He made the biggest stone of everyone. At the end of the session, we had a kind of a show and tell and an open house with the rest of the farmers as well. So people got to see the finished rocks together. And this was basically the amount of rocks that we made. And then the second part of the process of the grant was for me to take the rocks that were produced and to work with them on site in the garden itself. So find different installations that would work, and to create a series of postcards that later could be sold and then support the garden back again. So a way to come full circle. So it was very fun for the next 30 days, I played with the rocks all over the garden and in different people's plots and made a series of, maybe 100 different installations. Probably 30 of them worked really well. Some of them not so well, but it was fun to try. So many people love this potato one because there are a lot of potato growers. So they thought that was a crack up, And so this thought was the beginning of creating this idea of another community project in terms of a walking labyrinth, something that you can meditate by when you're walking in the garden. This one was produced in California. I did a residency in February, my first time doing a residency, and it was a blast. So this notion of beaded rocks being in place where people could walk. And while I was in California, I was going to show you some of the close-up stones of what people made, just to show that you probably all have the capacity to make this. You can see it's all peyote stitch. It's just flat 2 or 3 step peyote, and then circles, all done in a flat way. Just lots of bits and pieces put together. I think they turned out just fabulous. It was so fun to see somebody that was new at beading be able to just create a rock in maybe 1 or 2 sessions. This is not a great shot, but this is probably one of the first pieces I made when my daughter was first born 25 years ago. It was about her ears, how they looked like funnel shapes, and I thought she was so beautiful. So this is a little portrait of her. I've also worked with rocks where I've created textiles out of them. So this is a series of rocks that have been channeled, grooved, wired, created a little hanging on the backside, and then just a nail holds each rock in place. So you can make whole shapes. And this was an installation that was 30 feet long by 11 feet high. It was at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design for a McKnight Grant Show like 30 years ago. And in California, I've been working with also sticks, other natural forms. These pieces come from a wood turner, and we're doing a collaboration where he's turning the wood and I'm beating around them. So I thought I might be able to get both done, but I only was able to get one done. One started during that residency, and I had no idea what to do at first because they're so beautiful on their own. But I thought this was our agreement, so I'll try to figure out something that makes sense. So I started just working with rusty bells, and he had carved the pattern in that stick. So I thought, I've got to honor that. I've got to find a way to still seed it. This became the end piece of one of that stick. Here it is in process. And I was able to finish it when I got back home to Minnesota. And it's almost like a deer antler or something that seems to want to still belong outside. And that's it for the slideshow. Let's see if I can, yay. Let's see now. I think I muted myself again.
No, we can hear you.
Good.
Oh, good. Okay. So thank you for letting me share my work. What I want to do this summer is create a beaded labyrinth. I do have some at the village. I want to have some open sessions where people can come and bead together, or perhaps at the Bead Bazaar. I just got that email a little bit ago too. I'd like to be there and maybe talk about the project, maybe bead during the event itself or something like that as well. I do have some thoughts about like, how is that going to hold up over time? Like, will I have to lift it up and put it back down? Or can I speak with my friend Judy Onfrio, who lives here, who works outdoors? Is there a way to protect, kind of create a coating around the beaded rocks, or do something where some other idea? Maybe you guys have some ideas as well. But I love the idea of the garden, the village garden, bringing people together once again, creating more of that bridge between different cultures, where in general, we don't connect other than at the garden because everybody's so busy. And typically most of the growers there have 2 or 3 jobs because they are supporting large families, and sometimes even families back in other countries, and may live multi-generally together as well. So the grandma might be watching the grandkids while the women are picking spider plant, that kind of thing. So thank you for watching.
I have a question. You said the rocks that you had hanging, you created channels in them. How did you do that?
I used a Fordham, I used kind of like a Dremel tool, but it's called a Fordham.
I have a Fordham. I know what they are.
Oh, good. So I just used a diamond bit that I could just make a groove around the stones. I should have had one here. And then just used copper wire to create like a little eye hook on the back, and then wrap the wire around to the front and twist it and press it in. So it fit in really snug and beautiful.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Chris, I was going to ask you, what do you use for beading thread? What are you using, and how long do you think it will stand up?
Right. I'm typically using Selamite, which I get, and it's because I studied with Joyce Scott in like 1990. This is what she used. I have tried a Firewire and Nemo and those different kinds of threads at times, but I've gotten so used to this that that's what I typically use for all of my beadwork. I think you have a good question though, because what if like some kind of wire we could bead on wire instead? Would that work? Would that hold up over time? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I was just wondering what you saw as a good fiber to work with, or a good wire or thread that if you were to leave this rock, say if I left one on my front doorstep, how would the weather affect that?
Exactly. Which is why I have left rocks out for all summer long, but I haven't left them out all winter long. So I'm thinking maybe until I really know that answer, the piece might have to be lifted up and set back down into place until I have that, I know something that would really hold up over time.
Chris,
Like
have you thought about either floor wax or polyurethane?
That's what Judy had suggested, something like that would coat the piece so that the thread was encased, and I would think that would probably make a big difference in terms of.
A lot of people do it with the beaded stars and other objects that they're going to hang on their tree and use a lot. I mean, it stiffens it too, but it also protects it.
Right.
And so I would think that the floor wax or the, like the Krylon sprays because that's what the perma finish has, a type of finish over it to protect the bead. But when you put the whole thing in the floor wax or spray it, then that would seal the thread, I would think, in too. Because I make beaded sculptures, fairy gardens, and they've been hanging in the trees for a while. And some of them I just use like a Mod Podge over the top or some sort of glue sealant. And those are holding up really well. And the fairies that got covered and stuff too. I mean, they've been in the trees about 25 years, and so far their clothes are slightly shredded, but I think if you coat them, they will at least last a few seasons.
And that makes sense to me too, because then the thread would be coated, the beads would be coated. And they would just need to stay in place. They don't necessarily have to even be moved after that point, which would be incredible. So that's what I'm hoping to do, because I think it would bring a lot of people together. It'd be a great project for this community, but a community at large. Connecting with all of you would be an incredible experience too, because I have a feeling I have a lot to learn from all of you. And plus it expands. Like, I typically work fairly small, and I love the idea of working larger, like having a way to bring people together to create a message of tranquility or peace or goodness in a larger setting, in a larger way. So I think that's why this piece to me seems like the next step.
Well, I can't speak for anybody else, but I would love to come down and bead with you in Rochester.
I know, it would be so much fun to have a field trip.
Be great. And I can put you up here too if you want to spend the night. It'd be super fun. But it's not that far. And also I feel like there might be opportunities to come up there, bead together. I don't know how the Bead Society works since I'm such a new member, and I know it's all been remote because of COVID, but it is really nice to be able to plug in and find all of you.
Have you made any sculptures in the garden with like the driftwoods or anything else, all the agorna, or what about the squashes or something, that you're growing? I mean, because gourds dry out pretty good.
They do. So far, everybody has been growing food specifically, but there's the community as a whole really appreciates and supports art and wants to have art be part of the community garden because one, it's so big. There are neighbors that live across the street that are kind of like, it's not like must be for older folks or something because they come into the garden and you just see them walking. And one time when I was out there in my own little garden, I asked them, how do you feel about the garden being right across from your neighborhood? And they were like, we love it. It's fantastic. We can walk the paths and see what's growing, and super cool to have it right across our homes. So that made me think a lot about how cool it would be to have this place where you could meditate, where you could walk the labyrinth. If you are, I don't know if any of you, I have limited experiences doing that, but every time I have, it's just been like such a healing and wonderful experience where you can kind of slow down. I mean, we're kind of slow as we are anyway as beaters. We tend to really be picking the slowest possible process that there is. But even sometimes we need that ability to just think about all the things we're juggling and try to find out what comes to the top. And just with the world at the moment, just putting out peace right now just seems like such a huge thing to do, even though it may seem insignificant when you listen to the news. You just want to put that peaceful energy out there. So I guess that's part of the motivation.
Well, I think it is. Do you also grow food like and can it or do anything like that? What do you grow in your garden plot?
Holy smokes. Well, we have, of course, like everything you could imagine, tomatoes and tomatillas, and we're growing sort of very typical Midwestern things, I would say. So we're growing like basil and herbs and carrots and beets and squash and peppers and cucumbers. Like the spot is probably about 300 square feet. Each person gets that amount. So we grow a huge variety of stuff ourselves. And then we have learned, my daughter was actually, Olivia, who was helping me technically here, she was on a printmaking track. And she was about to move up to the Twin Cities to live in the Northern Warehouse to be a printmaker. And then the pandemic hit and they both moved home and she got into gardening and now she wants to have a farm. Now she just basically wants to be kind of a farmer eventually. And she's like 25. So it's kind of incredible how this community garden has really taken us in. So we're with the tomatoes we're making paste and sauces and roasting. And so we will probably be fine with having our own tomato stuff until the tomato season tomatoes are ripe again. So it's been a blast, really.
That's really cool. Do you need any pollinator plants? I'm a butterfly nut, and so I grow milkweed and all the different bee-friendly plants. And so the butterfly milkweed and stuff is huge. So I just don't know, like, do you have your extra pollinators around to help your thing, or do you want some seeds? Because I have thousands and thousands of plants.
Olivia next went nuts. Yeah, we definitely want some seeds. We definitely would love to grow anything that attracts pollinators. We do have a little beehive. There's a beekeeper that has a little stack of has a beehive on the site as well, because that's so important. We are by a river as well, so we do have some natural things, but we're behind a church. So the church is essentially has let us open up the back half of their land for all of these gardens, which has just really been incredible. But yes, I didn't know that about you, Rochelle. I would love to grow.
Well, we're kind of the central corridor for monarchs. And so I just wasn't sure if how you were set for, all the milkweed
Right.
in your part of the land.
You can't have enough milkweed, in my opinion, because like, for instance, we do no mow May in our front yard. Like, you're not supposed to, you let all the dandelions come up.
Mhm.
You let all, the bees have a chance to finally, get some good nutrition. And we basically just torn up our whole front yard and turned it into a pollinating garden. We don't grow we grow mostly flowers and pollinating things in our front yard, essentially. But it would be fun to grow more things in the community garden too. There is some, but there's mostly food production going on there for the most part.
Mhm. So Margot Yee put in the chat, she lives in Rochester. She said her building has a party room and there's a capacity of 100 people. And you could start there and carpool to the garden if you wanted to. I don't know, Margot, do you want to unmute and talk to people? Where are you?
Margot,
where'd you go?
I think she had logged out and had to log back in.
Yeah, I let her back in, but I thought she was back. Maybe she's having issues. On technology. Where are you, Margot? Come on back. Well,
we just became friends, Margot and I, fairly recently, because she saw either postings about the project, the community garden project on Facebook or Instagram. And so she's like, what, you live in Rochester? And I'm like, what, you live in Rochester? So she's like, let's get together. We did. And she's so fun.
yeah.
And then she's the one who's like, we got to go see Rochelle. We got to get on this Toho Bee Challenge thing. And she lives right downtown in a super cool building with plenty of space. And so I'm sure if she offered it and you saw that, Rochelle, she would be down for that for sure. And I saw somebody else in the chat wrote something like, they couldn't stop beating peyote stitch. I'm a rock hound with buckets of seed beads. I can go
That's
nuts.
Grace.
Grace.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And also somebody else said, will you be doing a step-by-step on how to beat a rock in the Let's Bead live? And yes, I will. I actually started documenting that and made photos, but I also will make a step-by-step, so that'll be easy.
Do you have any helpful hints for those of us who can't wait 2 weeks to get started on this little project? Because you're making little vignette scenes on some and cool sinkholes or
right. So I started one. Here's the one here's one that I'm going to basically work on, but I would say make components, make little components that will add up so that you have this ability to stitch the components together, because peyote stitch naturally zips together because of the up and down quality. And so if you make here's a little, I bead every night. I bead probably 2 or 3 hours every day. And I just I make components and I don't know what they're going to be used for. So I just stick them in a cool bowl. And then sometimes later you can pull things together. So here's a rock where you can almost tell where all the different components were. They started out something like this, but then because they can be zipped together on a rock, they go fast. You can put something together really quickly. Is that
I
good?
really like this idea. And my girlfriend and I used to go up to the North Shore and pick up all the rocks and driftwood we could carry home. And it's fun to think that, 1,000 years from now, archaeologists will look and say, how did something from 200 miles away get down here, and why did they put beads around it?
Right, exactly. I love that idea too. When I lived in Michigan, lived near the water, and so there were so many beaches to rock pick. But here in Minnesota, exactly the same thing. I mean, I think if you're a beater, it almost goes hand in hand with rocks. They're so individual, just like beads. I mean, you go nuts at a bead store. When you go to Bobby, you go crazy. But the same thing happens with rocks. You hold one in your hand and you're like, it just feels so good. There's something about the haptic quality of not only stones, but beads on stones. It's like so good.
We have a question here. What size beads do you recommend?
I like to work with 11s in general, but lately when I've been teaching, I've been working with like between 8s and 6s as well. Because some people, when they're new at beading, it's just the idea that like an hour, you create about an inch worth of beadwork in an hour. It's like mind blowing to people. For you and I, not an issue. We're used to that. But so I find working with larger beads at first for people so that they can actually make these mandala forms pretty quickly. And they're like, that only took me 15 minutes, and you're like, you get them slowly hooked, right, to that idea. I don't know about you guys, probably don't use Selamite, but the reason why I like Selamite is I can cut the skein in half. So I will maybe bead up 30 needles, and they're all the same length. And I know that it takes me between 10 and 15 minutes to complete stitching one needle's worth of thread. And so that's one way I can keep track of my time, because people almost always ask you, how long did that take to make? How long did the bigger rock take you to make? Or how long did a rock like this take you to make? And it becomes a factor for people, especially if they're busy. Like everybody's busy. Maybe if you're a migrant family, art is almost a luxury. Doing this project last summer was what I learned was that there are people that just are, working back-to-back jobs or have lots of responsibilities. And so creating a beaded rock, in a sense, was like opening a door, opening a light to a new way of thinking in some ways. So that was kind of mind-blowing to me. But I think it's important for people to have an idea. How long is this going to take me? Is this going to be something I can finish? Is this going to be something that's going to be too complicated for me? And new beaders, I mean, once you get them going with learning the process, what's so cool about it is it's affordable. You can start with the most basic beads and people can get going. And then if you're like us, we want to go to the gem show. We want to go to Bobby Bead and splurge because we want all the colors.
I'm looking at your Tumblr site.
Oh, nice.
And you have some beautiful works on there. Were you first an artist and then you got involved in the community, or has the community always been a part of your mission?
I was an artist first. I went to the University of Minnesota as a printmaker painter. And then I went to grad school and well, actually my husband and I went to grad school together. And I worked at a gas station while he was attending grad school because I hadn't been accepted yet. I was sort of all over the map with lots of different interests. And right when he started Cranbrook. All of a sudden, 7 of the 10 first-year students in fiber left for one reason or another. One was pregnant, one couldn't afford it. And so one of the other fiber students said to me, why don't you go talk to Gerhardt and tell him you're kind of all over the map, but you've worked as a natural dyer, you have your undergraduate degree, you've traveled. And even though you know how to weave and do these things, you don't really have a focus in fiber, but why don't you go and talk with him? And so I did. He said, you come on in a probationary way. And if you don't make it, we'll agree to, we'll both agree. If you don't like it, you can go. If you're not, well, it was intimidating because all of those fiber students had been to Rhode Island School of Design and Chicago and Kansas City Art Institute, and they all had studied with other fiber students, and I hadn't. I was a painter. But and so I floundered for a little bit, but in between, I took a workshop from Joyce Scott in Ann Arbor at the art school there, my summer in between. And it just stuck. She was, well, if you probably all know her as well, she was dynamic. She sang a spiritual before she even spoke. So that's how she started her workshop. And I cried. And I thought, I love beadwork because it's like a skin. It's like a surface. But it's so tactile and so much about textiles too. And Gerhardt, my teacher, basically said, if you can't do beading this next year, you just took that workshop, you don't have enough experience, you can do beading after you're finished with school. And I thought, oh no, don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be kicked out of grad school and I'm not ready to do that. So he said, think of anything else. It's got to be large scale. And that's when I started working with rocks and leaves and working outside, making installations that were textile based, site specific pieces. And when I got out of school, of course, started beading. I thought, yeah, I'm going to start beading rocks because that's what I'd been working with that previous year. And it just seemed to make so much sense to me. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions? It's so cool. And so what do you, when you're doing this, do you always capture the whole rock, or is it how the procedure? I know you're making your medallions, but then are you doing like a free form peyote to capture it all together? Is that it? Or
yeah, essentially. And it's important to me too that the rocks, that there's holes, that you can see the stone, that you can touch the stone. So I will end up filling these sections in. The places that are circular will stay where your fingers just fit perfectly. But the odd shapes, the organic shapes, I'll fill in with beadwork, just in peyote, just freeform. And I love the idea that, there's always some place where you can see the stone. I don't think I've made one stone where there's not some hole that you can see the rock. That's so important to me because it's sort of like body and spirit come together into one story. And each rock for me that I make has a story. It's about something or somebody or an event. And so I haven't ever wanted to sell any of them, which is a weird thing, but it kind of feels like you're selling your soul a little bit if you sell a rock. So I'm trying to understand more about where that comes from for me, because at some point I'll have to make a living. but I, prior, we did a little run through with Rochelle, and I've started making jewelry for the first time ever. And I've been shocked at the response, and also just like how fun it is and how fast it is, and how in a sense it's sort of like wearing a bracelet is a little bit like wearing, it's sort of like a memory or an echo of the Beaded Rocks in a strange way. I should get the one big piece I just finished, but I don't know. So I have a lot to learn about, I have an endless curiosity about beadwork there. And that's just, that's just one technique. Think about all the techniques that you guys probably have explored a lot more than I have. I've really stuck to peyote stitch because it's so meditative. It's so relaxing. You just pick up and, you can pick up and drop your work so easily. So it's always available.
Have there been cultures that have beaded rocks? I mean, have we found things where other ancient times beaded rocks?
I haven't really seen that, but I would love to see that. I know that there's like, I've seen like loose netting around gourds for musical instruments.
Yeah.
I've seen like beaded belts, from Africa. There's a lot of beadwork that acts as kind of a skin around like chairs or crowns, or in Native American cultures, the regalia to me seems, it must be very sacred. It's another thing I would love to explore more. I'm not Native American, though sometimes I really wish I am. So I'm so drawn to that work, but I don't do anything like it because I just feel like that would be disrespectful. I would not want to work with symbols that I don't understand their deeper meanings, but I'm really drawn to like bandolier bags, and all of those things just seem so powerful to me. But I haven't seen beaded rocks anywhere. I've seen a lot of painted rocks, people that have wrapped raffia around stones, I think in a Japanese culture. Can you guys keep a secret? This came to me because I wasn't really sure what to do when I moved back, got out of graduate school. It didn't occur to me right off the bat to bead rocks, but it came to me, you guys are probably in that same place where you're just like thinking, what can I do? What am I going to make? What has meaning? And actually beaded rocks came to me when I was breastfeeding my baby, because my breasts were hard as rocks. And I just was thinking about beading, and I thought, beaded rocks, just like these breasts. So it really came from someplace very deep, and kind of like, you don't tell everybody that.
No, you don't. I would like to ask where you get your skeins of Selamite. I have a friend that likes Selamite and has been having a hard time finding it.
Oh, sure. It's called, here, I'll put it in the chat. It's called Wacom. It's a sewing supply store.
Wawac?
Yes, I think it's Wawac. They'll send you a catalog, but you can also look them up online, and they sell Selamite. And it's like, I think Bobby should sell it too. It'd be really wonderful for Bobby to.
We used to sell it like 20 years ago, but it was on cards. It wasn't the long strands. And
Sure.
I find it has more stretch than the other lines.
Does.
And so it's, I have used it, but there's also limitations, and I don't know that I buy who's like, where it's selling and that kind of thing. And so do they still have different diameters? Like what size diameter are you using?
They just basically sell it only in this package in a size that's just called A24J.
Yeah, the A is the normal. It's kind of equivalent almost to like a size D in other sizes, it seems like, it will go through 11 O's about 6 to 8 times, won't it?
Right.
Yeah.
And it is twisted, which I like too. It's easy to thread through a small needle, which I really like. It's already waxed, but it is heat sensitive. I had one beaded rock that sat in the sun and it stretched it So you could almost like pick up the rock. It was like it had definitely stretched the thread, so the rock was movable within the skin, which was a surprise to me. And there's a bead artist out of Colorado named Julie Powell, and she just started weaving with Selamite, but she got it in spools, big, long, beautiful wooden spools, which I just have never done. But if I were ever to do loom work, I think that would be interesting.
At that Wawak sewing supply, you can get 675 yards for about $6.
Right. And it can last a really long time. I mean, I'm threading up, if it's cut in half like I have, I'm just pulling it out of the middle and threading up my needles 50 at a time. So I can sew, for 2 or 3 days with that batch of needles, and then, spend a half an hour threading me needles up again for the next round. But I like it because it's so easy to just thread your needles. They're all the same length. You just crank. You can just crank in the studio and don't have to worry about rethreading your needles, which I really like. Do you guys what kind of thread do you typically use?
I'm a big 1G fan. It's a Japanese nylon thread, but it depends on the project. Each project has a different thread.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that would be really fun to try a bunch of different threads at some point, just to do a test for yourself to see
Right.
what.
Well, I have a bunch of Fireline and Stren and Power Pro and all the different fishing lines that I think just because they're made for water, it also might work well. There's no stretch to it. That's the only thing. And I'm usually in peyote, you want a little bit of stretch. But maybe just because it's a Kevlar based product or something like that, it might hold up better for the outside art exhibits or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it would be really fun. Just to try different things.
Well, I'm willing to donate a bunch because I have a ton of it, and it's just one of those things that I only use on certain art projects. And I have a bunch of other fishing lines because my husband's a fisherman. So he gives me all the extras. So if anybody wants a project to try it out, I will also donate some of that to anybody who wants to. And yeah, if we make this project, I think it would be great to put at the state fair in our cases, or we could have some showing at the Twin City Bead Bazaar, or in the Bobby Bead windows. We could certainly make our little sculptures kind of traveling if you wanted to too. They could go to Nancy's garden for 1 month, and then they could go to Becky's garden for another month,
I love
travel
it.
around to members.
That would be so cool.
And then you're doing a social media presentation because you take pictures of your little installations, and then it would travel on to the next person's little heart, So there could be many, many different types of this installation.
I'm thinking that what I'll probably do is I don't have a schedule set up yet for the summer beatings in the garden, but is the best way to contact you, Rochelle, or send out information through social media?
Well, or the group where most people have a lot of time on their hands in the summer, or more time on their hands in their summer. So do you do things like that on weekends or during the week?
I think I'm really flexible too, because I'm basically just beading every day. I don't really have another job right now. I'm sort of semi-retired. So
you could always put something on our private Facebook group and go, okay, these are the 5 dates that I'm thinking of. Who wants to do these dates? Because it's a private group. So that way you can message and talk and whatnot, or just trying to figure out you know, a couple different times or ideas. That's kind of a thing.
Or
I don't know.
you could go on the website and contact any of the board members and we will get the word out.
Yeah,
Perfect. That sounds really good.
I think it'd be really a lot of fun. There was a couple questions on what size rocks do you need for your labyrinth?
Well, I'm
I think
thinking,
some people want to donate.
sure, that would be great.
Sure.
I'm thinking anywhere between, this one's something like 2.5 by 4 inches. This one is something like, you know, it's probably 2 by 2 inches, something like that. Something that's too tiny, that like this doesn't make sense to do something too little, because I want the rocks to be able to stay there in place, of course, to be seen. And so I think something that's, but it's like, you don't want it to put so much work in that you also want to acknowledge the beaters that are helping, like people, like maybe creating its own dedicated page or something like that, so that people are acknowledged in that way too. But, you know, just a stone that fits in your hand seems like the best. And I know you guys were talking about, I find myself really drawn to round stones too. But I did do a project where I worked with jaggedy stones and they came out really nice too. I was surprised. The beadwork sort of softened up the surface. But I'd say any stone that makes you happy.
I concur.
That just looks like so much fun. I am already thinking, where did I put those rocks? Let me see. Mhm.
There's good rocks. I mean, there's definitely good rocks up north, but I'm surprised that sometimes you can even find really great rocks at your like parking lot to your grocery store. I don't know if you guys like
We do
look.
urban mining all the time. All these new apartment buildings they're building everywhere. I mean, the aggregate comes from the local quarries, and I'm finding agates, I'm finding jaspers, I'm finding all kinds of good things. So
I want to go walking with you.
I tell ya, it's got to be a misty day. You don't want sunshine. But other than that way you can see all the pretty colors in the rocks without spitting on them. And because you can't lick a rock these days.
No.
That's just, you know. So, but yeah, all the new shopping malls and business centers all come from the local quarries all around southern and middle part of Minnesota. And so it's really amazing.
Yeah, I'm always looking at all those, you know, rocks that are in parking lots, because there's times when you're just like, oh, there's, you know, just the perfect rock. So you don't always have to necessarily go to the beach either.
Take a trip down to the creek or the river, or, you know, there's
My townhouse complex was built on top of a former quarry. So every spring I'm picking rocks out of my garden.
Wow.
In fact, when I first dug out 18 inches deep, I took out 10 5-gallon buckets of rocks.
Wow. That's incredible.
So they're everywhere.
So I guess you've got a few to donate too.
I get my driveway re-gravelled every few years and another load from a local quarry, and I pick rocks as I walk to my mailbox, and all my windowsills are full.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love it. And I think the idea of beating around the sticks to make little signposts and things would be really fun and interesting too.
I think so too. At the garden, the community garden too, they're very excited about it. Their board is super like, yes, we're so happy that you'll bring art, especially natural art or art that's about nature, into the site. I'm so excited that you guys are also stoked.
So absolutely. No, I
Peggy asked, tell me about threading 50 needles at once.
Well, what I do is here, I'll pull this out. This gives you an idea. I usually put my threads on a weaving cone, and I just will have all the needles threaded up. So I'll just, thread them one at a time and stick them in here. So then I can just pick them off when I'm ready to bead. I don't know.
your thread doesn't get tangled?
It doesn't get tangled. It just seems to, like, if you just, I guess because it's on a cone, it just, I just pick it off the top, and then I can easily just pull it apart like that, and you're ready to go. I don't know what anybody else does, but it just seems to work really well for me. And also this is like, sometimes, this is a long doll needle. So sometimes I'll just put all my components, on the needle so that they're just like, I can see them before and maybe something will come together for a rock which I just love. I don't know why, but I love this, how that looks.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Inspiring too, to keep going. You're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I do really like the ones, the circles in the middle that allow the rocks to show through. That's just so cool.
And it's just like we're very hand-oriented people. We're used to touching things, especially a lot. So the idea that you can just put your finger right in there and feel the surface of the rock just seems super important to me. And of course you can make smaller, holes, bigger holes too, but I find that I typically, do one where my finger could fit right through for some reason. That just feels perfect. And maybe it would change with the scale of the rock too. If you're working with a really small rock, of course, you want it to be able to fold around a stone. You can't make your component so big, that it won't accommodate your rock at all. But that's what happened with Jerry. He kept beating and beating and beating. And so we had to keep increasing the scale of his rock. He was supposed to make one this big, and it ended up being massive, but for him, it was a really important experience because his father died during last summer, and he couldn't go back to Liberia. His father's coffin was draped exactly like his stone. And it became kind of a cathartic experience for him to bead this rock, sort of in lieu of being able to be back home because of COVID and because of the work he's doing here. So it was surprising to me that this process could create such deep and meaningful connections between people, very spiritual, in a way that I just was thrilling.
I don't know if you know about this. I don't know. It's kind of a ritual, kind of at the Jewish cemeteries. You will see people don't put out flowers, but you'll find headstones with rocks on them, which, because rocks are permanent, flowers are not. Yeah. And I can see making a few small ones to place various places.
That I love that tradition. I wish it's not, I'm not Jewish, although
I'm not either.
I would convert for that because I just think that's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful idea.
Somebody's been there.
Excuse me. Yes.
Visiting, it's just, flowers die. And it's just that, I mean, that's what I was told.
Yes.
So it shows someone has been there.
Right. I've actually, before knowing that tradition, my mother died when I was 30. So when I go visit her grave, for the first little bit, I would just fill her, she has like a plaque on the ground, and I would just fill it with beads. But then I started leaving rocks, and then someone told me about the Jewish tradition, and it just seems to make so much sense, like there's something about, well, rocks especially are just, they're so old. I mean, this rock is going to outlive me, just the skin might not, the beaded skin may not outlive, may fall, but it might last like 100 years or something. Just this piece, the ability for this, maybe it's anybody who's making artwork, you have this ability to make something that becomes an heirloom or becomes a part of your legacy. And it just blows me away that just a plain old simple rock, has been in the form that it's in for such a long time. And, our whole lives are, we live and we die within the lifetime of that rock. Also, somehow that just blows me away.
Yeah. This has been so wonderful. I really appreciate you sharing all this. And so to be prepared for Saturday's class with you, we should all have a rock, some beads, a needle, thread, and
good light.
that sounds pretty darn simple. And just maybe, so you're doing a lot of sequences of mandalas, sort of, or putting in kind of that kind of thing. Is there a traditional sequence to that, or like starting with 8 beads and then it's just traditional flat peyote spreading out? Other than that, that's basically.
Yeah, that's basically it, right?
Okay.
I'm working just in peyote as well, even though there's so many other techniques. I just find it so comforting.
Yeah, I just wonder what right angle weave would look like, which has a little bit more lacy look, or I don't know, like creating patterns. I just love all the different things that people have created in your pictures, and how they led themselves to their own story as it went together,
Right. People definitely had preferences, and also I learned to let certain things go. Like a couple of people made rocks where the hole was just tiny, just like you could barely see. And I thought, that's not what I would do, but I just let that person do it because they were about the sun. That was what was important to them. And so I learned stuff from watching other people make things, which was really cool, so people's own personalities come out. Whatever really you're really drawn to seems to come into that work.
Oh, that's great. And so this might also work your way into the part at the state fair. We have Beads Connect Us Together is our theme. And so,
oh wow, that's perfect.
Kind of. I mean, Becky came up with it, I think. Yep. And so we're really excited. So yeah, if you have, we can certainly do that in the state fair. So whatever you turn in for, there's many, many uses. So we're super excited. Golly jeepers. I just want to go look for my rocks now. What about you guys?
Me too. I don't know if you can see, my cat just passed behind me, and first thing that came into my head is, I could beat the cat.
Oh, there you go.
I don't have any rocks.
I
have
see. You have what?
Scrub. I have no rocks. I do have some pine cones, but I think those would be very difficult.
I see somebody put a note here about maybe working on shells too.
Yeah, I thought that was a great idea because she's going to Florida.
I think it's a great idea too. I think it's wonderful. I picked up some shells. Yeah, well, I think that their shells were also, they think about how they were constructed. That's like that's like, those shells also blow me away
Well,
because
and they had a living being inside of them at one time. That's so half of the cool thing of a shell.
yeah. So I would say that would be an awesome thing to do too.
So, yeah, so I can't wait to see what you all come up with. And we'll just stay all connected and figure out how this goes, but we will continue to talk about it at our Saturday Let's Bead Live as well. And we'll see how many more people that aren't even in our membership can get involved as well. And so, and then we'll figure out how we can make a trip to the garden once the snow melts.
Yeah. That would be incredible. Plus, I'm hoping to see you guys at the thing in May as well.
Oh,
Maybe I'll have a
yes.
chance to meet you there, because I got an email and I thought I would love to be part of that.
Perfect.
Absolutely. There's just so many opportunities going on. We're excited. So anybody else have any other questions? Comments? Jokes? Oh,
I just want you to know how much I've enjoyed this. This is that you have a bubbly personality, and this has been so much fun.
Thank you. It's my honor to meet all of you. It's really exciting to know that there's a huge group of beaders in the state, and it's not necessary. Sometimes you feel a little isolated. I guess it was just joining the Bead Society to show me that I needed to find my own tribe here. So thanks so much.
Mhm.
we are totally so glad that you joined us.
Presentation. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And so we put some more links in the comments here, and so then they're also online. So if you want to check out our project, do you still doing the greeting cards, or did you sell them all?
Oh, no, I forgot to do that. My daughter's helping me with the website, but we made a set of greeting card or postcards that had 30 or 24 different designs. I will try to put, how can I do that? I should have put pictures up of that.
Or you could put them in the chat of our event on the page. You can put the pictures in there, because the event stays up on Facebook forever. So if you put them in that, then we all see them too.
Okay.
And it would be nice if we had a link so that we could purchase some.
Well, I would love that too. I will put that in the
event. Yeah, because we
event.
have the Saturday event and there's also the Monday events. They're on Facebook in there, and you can put them in there, and that way we can all get to you, and we can get to you. Yes,
that'd be awesome, because that postcard project basically goes straight back to the garden. That money goes straight back to the garden to support, because they have to buy hoses and fencing, all these different things to make the garden happen. I think they pay for the water that gets piped in and stuff too. So that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's a great project. So we love to support.
Thank you so much, all of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining. And we look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks. It's April 16th from 1 to 4 Central Time Zone. For all you who don't live in Central Time Zone, remember.
Is it a lot? Some of you, you're not all from Minnesota, is that right? Some of you from other states?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for the reminder, Rochelle.
Robin's in Colorado. Who else do we have?
I've been in Austin, Texas, and then I moved to, I've only been in Colorado for a few months. So, but yeah. Thanks
I'm
for
in
the
Michigan.
reminder.
I'm in Michigan. Where in Michigan?
Interlaken, just outside Traverse City.
I used to live in Sutton's Bay. That's where I lived for 14 years.
Seriously, one of my favorite places to go. I just moved here in July. I lived in Minnesota for 40 years.
Oh,
so-
my goodness.
So, but so I've got lots of access to rocks if anyone wants a delivery. Um,
You have a lot of good rocks. You do.
yeah, we have a lot of good rocks.
And
Yes.
Interlaken is such a beautiful place.
It is a lovely place. It's quickly becoming home.
Good.
But I
Aw,
miss Minnesota a lot, so this is lovely for me.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I could get you some rocks from where we dumped them from my brother-in-law's project when he passed away. They
Oh,
all
wow.
supposedly have gold in them.
Where are all your rocks, Vita?
I'm in North Carolina.
North Carolina, okay.
Find
Wow.
anybody. And so, and it was too heavy to put in the trash, so we have a little line between the garden and the fence that goes down. So we just started pouring them all in there. So we got all these little rocks.
Wow.
Wonderful. Yeah, and Hannah's in Oregon. Don't we have some people in Florida too?
Well, I'll be in Florida.
We have 2 members, but I don't know that they're actually watching tonight.
Yeah, I mean, people have been dropping off pretty much.
Marla,
but-
our Marlene Ackerman is one of them.
Okay,
Wow.
so, well, we're glad for everybody. So yeah, you can join from anywhere in the globe, I think. So encourage your friends to join, even if they don't live here. That way we can all stay connected. So
Okay.
I'm gonna stop my recording